you can draw this in Procreate. During this Procreate tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can create this wooden lightbox illustration. Don't worry, I will be guiding you through every single step. You don't need any experience with drawing or with Procreate. And while you follow along this tutorial, you will learn all about the features in the app Procreate. And then once you have reached the end and you have your final result, you will feel so proud that you just need to share it. If you are sharing it on Instagram, then don't forget to tag me in the image, not just in the description, so I will be able to find your work and maybe we will see it in the next video. Just like these fantastic results from my friends at Patreon. That's the place where you can find more than 100 Procreate tutorials ranging from beginner level to more advanced levels. But now let's get started with this tutorial. The canvas we're working on is 3000 by 2300 pixels. Color profile is set to sRGB. You don't need any special brushes, just a photo that we'll be using. I have linked it in the description. And you can use the same colors as I'm using by downloading the color palette, which I have also linked in the description and which is totally free. Now to get started, first thing we'll do is grab a brush. We are going to grab a Procreate standard brush in the calligraphy section. We are going to use the script brush. I have the opacity of this brush set to 100% and the size of my brush is at 8%. And I'm going to use black. You can just double tap here at the bottom, or you can use any dark color you like, because this won't be the final color we'll be using. Now what we'll do is we'll make a wobbly, pretty random shape. And this will be like the outside of our little wooden lightbox scene. So let's start here. Make a random wobbly shape and close it. Then you can drag your color onto the outside of the shape, and you might want to adjust some parts. You can make this a little bit cleaner, this edge. And if you want to adjust it a little bit more, then I would suggest going to the magic wand here and then to liquefy, set it to push, have distortion and momentum set to none. And then what you can do is you can push and pull some areas. I will make the brush pretty big, let's say 70%. And you can push and pull some areas to change those wobbly sections. Sometimes that's easier than to make the wobbly line in one go. So something like this is totally fine. Then just tap the magic wand again. And now we are going to change the color of this layer. Let's go and grab this first color in the first row and then just drag it onto the black section. Now we are going to make a layer underneath this layer. So first we'll tap the plus in our layer menu and then we'll drag this layer underneath layer 1. And now we are going to use black or another dark color again to create the next layer of our scene. First, I want to make a wobbly shape that is slightly smaller than the wobbly shape that we have right now. So you can follow that shape a little bit, just like this. Close it, and then you can add some extra wobbles, like there's some snow here. But just adjust the shape a little bit, make sure that it's nicely rounded in those corners. And then you can drag the black to the outside of the shape and here that inside, make sure that everything is filled. And of course you could use liquefy again to adjust the shape a little bit. I'm going to keep it like this. Now I would like to add some clouds to the scene. We are going to attach it to the side since it's one piece of wood, and let's just make a simple cloud shape. And let's make a cloud shape here as well. Just again a simple shape. And perhaps one attached over here. It's also attached to the side because, like I said, this is one piece of wood. So these clouds are attached to it. Let's fill these shapes. And now we are going to add some trees to our foreground. We are going to make them very simple. First, let's make a cone-like shape like this. And then we'll make shapes like this. Then from here and then inward, outward, then inward, and like this. And let's make another one over here. Then like this, downward, downward and inward, and like this. Then we can fill the shapes, drag in the color. You can also use continue filling with recolor. Then move this little crosshair around. And then tap these areas to fill them as well. That can save you a little time. I do see that we have some small gaps, so let's grab the brush and then go over those little gaps to make sure that everything is colored. And then once you have these elements, we can change the color of this layer. We will use this color over here, second color in the first row, or well, the only row. Drag it on the shape, and then we can move on to the next layer. We'll go to the layer menu, we'll tap the plus, and we'll drag this layer underneath layer 2. And then let's grab a dark color, either black, or you can also go for a dark brown. Really doesn't matter, as long as it has a nice contrast with the layers we already have. Now first, let's make a hilly shape. Let's go from here and make a shape like this. Let's loop around to make sure it's closed. Then we can drag in a color. And I would also like to add some clouds here. Let's make one over here. Just a simple shape, close it. And let's make a small one over here. Make sure to close it. And let's add one over here behind our tree over here. Close the shape and then drag in the color to fill these shapes. Now we are going to add some houses to our little scene, and let's do that on a new layer. We'll go to the layer menu, we'll tap the plus for a new layer, and here we will make our first house. Let's zoom in a little bit. And for our house, we need a square or rectangle and a triangle. To make a nice rectangle or square, let's go to the selection tool, the S shape ribbon. It's already set to rectangle, and I have color fill turned on. Now when I make a rectangle or a square like this and let go, it's immediately filled with that brown. Now let's go back to our brush. Let's tap the brush, and for now let's grab the monoline brush. The opacity of this brush is set to 100%, and let's make it nice and small. Let's go for 3%, or what is it, for 3 or 4, just small. And let's make a triangular shape. Let's just make a triangle like this, then hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick shape, and then go to edit shape. Now you can use these handles to adjust your triangle a little bit, so you get something like this. And then you can drag in the color to fill the shape. Now if you don't like those rounded little sections, like those rounded corners, you can tap and hold the eraser so that your eraser is set to the monoline brush as well. And then we can simply go along that edge, hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick line. And then you can make it more pointy. Now since we are going to make multiple houses for our scene, I'm going to save this shape so we don't need to make this again and again and again. We will just have this template. So let's duplicate this layer with this house by sliding to the left and then tapping duplicate. And then let's turn off the bottom one. That's our backup house. Now for this house, for our first house, first I want to add a chimney. Let's go back to the selection tool, the S shape ribbon. It's still set to rectangle with color fill turned on. And let's make a little chimney here. Just like this. And perhaps a little rectangle here on top. And then tap the S shape ribbon again. Now since this is like a cutout, it is a light box, we want to remove some parts of this house so that the light will shine through. Now to do that, we are going to add a layer mask to this layer. So tap the layer and then tap mask. And now we have an extra layer on top here, a white layer. And when we paint on that layer with black, we will start masking parts of that layer. So let's just try that out. We already have black selected here. We have our monoline brush. And now let's add a little circular window here. Let's draw a circle, hold your pen in place, and then tap one finger on the screen to make it snap to a perfectly round circle. Then you can drag in a color so that it's entirely, well, empty. It's not really white, it's just, there's nothing there, it's blocked. Now we can switch to white, we can double tap over here. And now we can paint parts back in, like a vertical line like this. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen for a perfectly vertical line, and then a horizontal one. Now let's also make a door and some windows. Let's switch back to black by double tapping here at the bottom. And let's go back to the selection tool. Let's first make a rectangle over here, and then a door right next to it. And now we can go back to the brush. We can set it to white again, double tapping here. And then we can mask parts. We can make a little pattern here with 3 vertical lines and a horizontal one. And now we have our first little house. Let's move it. Let's go to the move and transform tool. That's the little arrow up here. And now we can place it over here. And then let's go ahead, let's go to the layer menu and let's duplicate this house by sliding to the left, tapping duplicate. Now we can turn this on. Let's move it by going to the move and transform tool. Let's place it here for now, then tap the move and transform tool again to get out of here. And let's give this a chimney as well. Let's go to the selection tool again, S shape ribbon. Let's give it a chimney on this side. We'll make it slightly different. And then let's go to the layer menu and then add a layer mask here as well. Tap the layer, tap mask. Then set the color to black by double tapping here. Then grab the brush, the monoline brush. And let's make a circular window here as well. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and go to edit shape if you need to move it around, then dragging the color, and then switch to white by double tapping here, and make a cross again. A vertical line and a horizontal line. Then we are going to go to the selection tool again, S shape ribbon. We are going to set the color to black again. And now we are going to make windows and a door. First, let's make a rectangle like this. And then tap the S shape ribbon, tap it again, then switch to white over here. Double tap in the white section. And then let's remove that center part here. So now we have 2 long windows, and in between we can make a door, but first we need to tap the S shape ribbon, tap it again, then switch to black again. And then in between we can make a very thin door. The people that live here might have a bit more trouble getting inside, but who cares? Then tap the S shape ribbon, then grab the brush again and let's set it to white so we can add these lines to the window. One vertical, one horizontal, over here as well. And now we can move this house around by going to the move and transform tool, that little arrow, and let's place it over here. Maybe a little bit to the left. Now let's place it over here. Then tap the arrow again to get out of that menu. Now we have our 2 little houses over here, and we can merge it with that layer with the hill and the clouds. But first let's grab this template house. Let's place it on top here so we can merge these 3 layers. This layer 4, this layer 4, and this layer 3. Let's pinch them together. And now we can change the color for this layer as well. We are going to use that second color in the only row again. So second color, we're going to use the second color, just drag it onto it and onto the clouds as well. And now we are going to make another layer underneath this layer. So first tap the plus for a new layer, drag it underneath. And then again, let's grab a dark brown like this one. It's in my history tab, or just grab a dark color. Or you could also use a bright green, doesn't really matter. Let's make another hilly shape. Just something like this. Loop around, close the shape, and drag in the color. Then we need some houses on that hill as well. Let's first turn that layer on with a little house. It's a bit big for that area, so let's go to the Move and Transform tool, the little arrow. Make sure that you have it set to uniform and then make it smaller. It appears to be smaller since it's further away from the viewer. So let's go for something like this and then let's duplicate it. Let's slide to the left on the layer and tap duplicate, then go to the Move and Transform tool and place some more houses. Let's duplicate it again, slide to the left, tap duplicate, go to the Move and Transform tool, place one over here, and let's make 2 more houses. Let's duplicate this, go to the Move and Transform tool, and add houses over here as well. Duplicate it again, go to the Move and Transform tool, and place another one over here. Then we can go to these layers. Let's place this one on top of these layers with the houses, and then we can merge all of these layers. Let's pinch them together. Now for these houses, I want some doors and windows as well. You could also make some chimneys. You can add as much variety as you like. Of course, I'm going to keep it simple. I'll tap the layer and use a layer mask. Then I'll set the color to black by double tapping here, and then we'll go to the selection tool again. Let's zoom in a little bit. And let's just add a simple door, a little window, maybe a square window over here. And let's do that for all of these houses. Little window. And finally this one. And we can tap the brush. And then let's grab white again. Let's double tap here. And some need to get covered a little bit because that hill, it's a bit rounded. So let's just go like this. Follow that hill shape. There. Now that we have this, we can merge the layer mask with the layer by just pinching it together. And now we can change the color of this layer as well. Let's grab the third color and drag it onto the layer. Now we'll go to the background color layer. If you tap it, you can see that the color menu pops up, and now you can pick a color for your background layer. We are going to use this one over here, 5th color, and now we are going to make a layer on top of the background layer. First tap the plus for a new layer and drag it underneath. And for this layer, we are going to use this 4th color. Let's just drag it onto our background, and on this layer I want to add a moon and some snowflakes, but we need to cut those out. It's a wooden cutout light box, so we're going to use a layer mask again. But before we do that, let's just draw in those elements, the moon and the snowflakes, on a separate layer. We're going to tap the plus for a new layer, and let's just grab black. We'll double tap over here. And first, let's make our moon. We already have the monoline brush selected, so let's make a circle. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen for a perfectly round circle, and then drag in a color to fill it. Now I want it to be like a sickle moon, so we need to remove a part, and we can actually use a layer mask on this layer to do that. So let's tap layer 6 and tap mask, then grab black. Double tap over here, and then you can draw another circle like this. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen like this, and then you can use edit shape so you can easily move it around until you have something that you like, and then drag in the color so you get your sickle moon. Then go to the layer menu. You can pinch these together since we're happy with our moon. And if you like, you can go to the Move and Transform tool, the little arrow. You can rotate it a bit. You can move it around until it's in a spot that you like. Then tap the arrow again. And now let's add some snowflakes. We'll do that by using the text tool actually. We'll go to the wrench, then go to add, then to add text, then tap this little globe over here and look up a snowflake. I can already see it. It's over here. Let's use the snowflake. And then get out of this menu by tapping the brush, for instance. And we'll go to the layer menu. We'll tap this layer with the snowflake and we'll tap rasterize. Now it's no longer text, it's just a layer with pixels. And we can tap this layer, then tap alpha lock, then tap it again, and then use fill layer. Now we have a nice black layer. It's not entirely black though. You can still see a little bit of that pattern of the snowflake. So let's duplicate it until it's completely black. Maybe we'll just duplicate it twice, then pinch it together. And now we have a nice snowflake shape. And I want multiple snowflakes, so let's just duplicate this. Drag to the left, tap duplicate, go to the move and transform tool. And you can rotate it a bit. So you get various snowflakes. We can make it a little bit smaller. And go to the initial one again, duplicate it by sliding to the left. Go to the move and transform tool. You can place one over here. Duplicate this one again. Let's make about 5. Move this one around. We can place it behind this cloud. And let's go back to the initial one. I want to move that as well. Let's place one over here. We have a nice space here. Then duplicate it one final time. Slide to the left, tap duplicate. Go to the move and transform tool. And let's place this one over here. Then let's go back to the layers and we can pinch all these black layers. We can pinch those together. Now for some magic, let's tap this layer, then tap select, then turn off color fill here, and then use invert here. And then we'll go back to our layers, we'll tap layer 5, and then we'll tap mask. And we can turn off this black layer and turn off the selection tool by tapping the S shape ribbon. And now you can see we have a hole, a moon shaped and a snowflake shaped hole. Now we can actually merge these together so that it's actually cut out from this layer. Now we have all our layers, actually all our layers of wood, but it doesn't look like a wooden light box at all yet. But don't worry, we're getting there. Let's add the photo texture that we'll be using. First, let's tab layer 1 here at the top, and then we'll go to the wrench, then to add, and then to insert a photo. And we are going to insert our wooden texture photo. So tap it, and then insert the wooden texture. And you can see that it's a vertical texture. I want to rotate it. First, let's zoom out a little bit, and then grab this green little circle to rotate it 90 degrees, and then make it bigger by dragging these corners and make it cover the entire canvas. And then we'll go to the layer menu, we'll tap the little N next to the layer name, and we are going to set it to overlay. And this is already making it look more like wood. And now with the next few tricks, we are really going to make it look like a wooden light box. Now I'll try to take it slow so you can follow along. Let's first go to layer 1 here. We are going to duplicate this layer by sliding to the left and tapping duplicate. And then we'll go to that bottom layer 1. Now we are going to change the color of this layer. Let's go to the color menu and grab this color over here. That's the 6th color. Drag it onto that shape. You can't see it right now, but when you go to your layer, you see that it's dark brown now. And to make it look like our layer of wood has volume, we are going to use the blur tool. We'll go to the magic wand, and then we are going to use perspective blur. Now we get this little circle. We are going to drag it up a little bit, and then with your finger on the screen, slide to the right. Now we get a nice little edge. So we'll go to about 30%. Then tap the magic wand again. And of course, wood doesn't have a blurry edge. It has a nice crisp edge. And to fix that, we are going to go to the selection tool, the S shape ribbon. and we are going to set it to automatic. Then tap the area around, like that's the first layer. Tap it, and you might need to adjust the threshold. So tap it and move your pen to the right. Perhaps tap it again and keep moving until it's covering that blurry area. So I'm at about 75%. Then we'll go to the layer menu, we'll tap the plus for a new layer, and then we drag that brown color onto that area. And then once you have done that, you can go to that first brown layer that you have created and you can remove that. So slide to the left and tap delete. And let's turn off the selection to check it out. And you can see that we now have a nice little edge, but we don't just need an edge, we also need a little shadow. So let's duplicate this layer 1 again, slide to the left, tap duplicate, drag that layer underneath these 2 layers. And we are going to change the color for this layer as well. We'll go to the 7 color, drag it onto that area, then go to the magic wand again, and this time use Gaussian blur. Slide to the right with your pen to around 10%, then go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow, and move it down and to the right just slightly. Then we'll go back to the layer menu, tap the N right next to the layer name, and set it to multiply. Multiply is a great layer blending mode for shadows. Now we are going to repeat these steps for the other layers. So first go to layer 2, slide to the left, tap duplicate, go to the bottom layer, then we'll go and grab this color again, 6th color, drag it onto the shape, and then we'll go to the magic wand and to the perspective blur again. Drag this one up a little bit, use your finger on the screen to add a blur to around 30%, then grab the selection tool, which is set to automatic, tap. You might need to adjust the threshold. I'm at 78%. Then go to the layer menu, tap the plus for a new layer, and drag that color inside the shape. And then you can remove that first layer that you created. Drag to the left, tap delete, tap the S shape ribbon to turn off the selection. And now we are going to make a shadow again. So we need to duplicate layer 2 here, slide to the left, tap duplicate, drag it underneath the other 2, change the color to the 7 color, so drag it onto the layer, then go to the magic wand, then to Gaussian blur, slide to the right to around 10% or maybe a bit less, how about 8? Then to the move and transform tool and go downward and to the right a little bit. Then go to the layer, tap the N, and set it to multiply. You're doing great so far. Remember, you can always hit pause if you need to slow down. Now let's go to layer 3 and repeat the steps again. First, we'll duplicate this layer by sliding to the left, tap duplicate, go to the bottom one. Then we need to grab that 6th color again, color these areas. Make sure to also color the clouds. You can't see it right now, but when you go to your layer again, you can see that it's colored. Then we'll go back to the magic wand, then to perspective blur. Drag the little circle upward a little bit, and then with your finger on the screen, slide to the right to around 30%. Then grab the selection tool, which is set to automatic, tap and hold, and perhaps you need to adjust the threshold. Make sure to do the same for the clouds. Then go back to the layer menu, tap the plus for a new layer, dragging the color into these areas. Turn off the selection tool, go back to the layer and delete the bottom one here. Slide to the left, tap delete, and then for the shadow, duplicate this layer again, slide to the left, tap duplicate, drag it underneath, change the color to this one, 7th color, drag it onto here, don't forget the clouds, and then go back to the magic wand, Gaussian blur, slide to around 8%, then go to the move and transform tool, and go down and to the right a little bit. And tap the arrow again, You can really see our light box coming to life here. I think this is the most fun part of the process. Let's move on to this layer over here. We're almost there. Let's duplicate it, slide to the left, tap duplicate, go to the bottom one. Then we'll go back to the sixth color, drag it onto the layer. And again, go to the magic wand, perspective blur. Move this upward a little bit. That's actually the direction in which it's blurring. Then with your finger, move to the right to around 30%. Tap the magic wand again and tap the selection tool. Tap the area to select it. Then go and create a new layer on top of this one. Tap the plus, drag in the color. Then remove that bottom layer by tapping delete here. And then turn off the selection tool. Now we need a shadow again, so duplicate this layer, slide to the left. Tap duplicate, drag it underneath here, grab the seventh color, drag it onto the layer, and then go back to Gaussian blur. Slide to the right to around 8%. We'll go back to the move and transform tool and place it downward and to the right a little bit. Then let's do the same for this final layer over here. Let's duplicate it, slide to the left. Then go to that bottom one, grab the sixth color, drag it onto the layer, and go to the magic wand, perspective blur, place it upward, and go to around 30%. Go to the selection tool, set to automatic, tap that layer, then go ahead and create a new layer on top by tapping the plus and dragging the color. Now let's also add a shadow. First, turn off the selection tool. And we need to remove this layer. Slide to the left, tap delete. Duplicate this one. Slide to the left, tap duplicate. Drag it to the bottom. Grab the seventh color. Drag it onto the layer. Then go to the magic wand and go to Gaussian blur. Slide to the right to around 8% or maybe 7%. Go to the move and transform tool and move it downward and to the right a bit. Let's not forget to set these layers to multiply. Actually, I see I forgot a few, so tap the N, scroll up to multiply here as well. So for all these dark shadow layers which we have blurred, make sure to tap the N and set it to multiply, because that way you will still see that wooden texture. Now we have our wooden light box, but it's turned off. We need to turn on the light. So let's do that now. First, let's go to this layer over here. It's black right now, those snowflakes and that moon. Let's turn it on and let's change the color. To easily do that, we'll tap this layer. We'll turn on alpha lock. Then we'll go to our color palette and grab this color. It's the 8th color. Then back to the layer, tap it and use fill layer. Then we are going to change the layer blending mode. Let's tap the N and set it to add, which is great for lighting effects. And we are going to lower the opacity a bit to 60%. Now we are going to turn off alpha lock on this layer. You can either tap it and then turn it off or slide to the right with 2 fingers. And then for our glowing light effect, we'll go to the magic wand and use bloom over here. You can slide to the right to turn on that glow. You can also turn up the burn. You can play around with the effect a little bit. You can change the size. Let's go for a nice glowing effect. Maybe a little bit less, something like 77%. With the burn around 50% and the size at 33. Let's go back to the layer menu. And at this point, with the light box, with the light turned on, I think it actually looks better if we turn off this layer, which gives that depth to our wood. And you can also turn down the opacity of this shadow layer a little bit. To, let's go for 60%. You can play around with the settings. You can also try to turn up the opacity of this add layer. Let's try turning it up. Well, let's go for 68%. And we'll add more light effects. Let's create a layer on top of our moon and snowflakes layer. Let's tap the plus and let's set this layer to add as well. We are going to add more light. We are going to change our brush. We are going to use a soft brush under airbrushing. Here's the soft brush, and we are going to change the color to this 9th color over here, that nice blue. And the opacity of this brush is set to 60% and the size is set to 25%. And let's go along the edges very gently at the top and at the bottom to add that light effect. And we are going to do the same on this area. So we'll go and create a layer on top of this one, layer 5 over here. Let's tap the plus and tap the N, scroll down to set it to add, and then we can add some light here as well, just along that edge. And then finally a layer on top of this one, layer 3. Let's tap the plus there as well, set the layer blending mode to add, and then add some light there as well. I think this is looking awesome. Now we have put that photo texture on top of all the other layers. To make it look even better, you could put that layer on top of each of the wooden layers. So for instance, over here, we can tap that layer and use clipping mask so it's clipped to that top wooden layer. Now we can duplicate it. Do be sure that you have enough layer space. If you don't have enough space, this step is not mandatory. Now that duplicate layer, we will put it on top of this light layer, that layer 2. Then again, use clipping mask. Then go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow here, and move it around a little bit so that the wood looks different, that it doesn't just continue, that wooden texture isn't the same all over. And you can do that for each layer. So we'll duplicate that again, move it to this layer here, set it to clipping mask, then go to the move and transform tool, move the texture around, and do that again, duplicate it, move it downward to this light layer. They are easy to identify. Tap it, use clipping mask, go to the move and transform tool, and move the texture around. And then finally duplicate it again and put it on top of this layer. Use clipping mask, go to the move and transform tool, and again move it around. Tap the arrow again, and now you have a great looking wooden light box. You can apply this technique to lots of designs, of course. You can have endless fun with it. Do be sure to share those results, of course. I'm looking forward to seeing them. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. Perhaps you would like to turn it into a streak and maybe you would like to follow this tutorial next. I would like to thank you for watching and I will see you next time for the next tutorial.